With everything inspected where we want it to be, we had to take it apart one more time because now we're at the final stage.
It is a dial with an SUV going downhill. That is your downhill assist.
Good morning, Defying Jeepers. We're having a wonderful day so far. Today is June 2nd, and we have a simple little outing today. We're actually on our way to Spring Mountain Recreational Park Visitor Center, where we have a meeting with one of the representatives who's actually going to help us have more understanding of trail cleanups and what's involved to help clean up the trail. You know, as off-roaders, we take advantage of the trails. We like to use them. Why don't we help clean them? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go ahead and sit in for a lecture, get about as much information as we can, and then go for a little trail ride after that. So let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to go meet our trainer Ashton at the Rec Park Center, or Visitor Center, I'm sorry, and we'll get that started.
I'm Ashton Melendez. I'm the volunteer coordinator with Go Mount Charleston. So we're going to be talking about our volunteer program for OHV hosts. So a little bit about our organization. We are a nonprofit organization, and we partner with government agencies to help them manage the land. So sometimes it just kind of means we don't have to go through as much red tape, and we can get things done a lot faster. So Go Mount Charleston is part of a larger organization called Southern Nevada Conservancy. We have folks here on Mount Charleston, but we also have folks at Red Rock and at the Desert National Wildlife Refuge across the freeway, as well as the California Trail Center all the way up in Elko. So we're a little bit everywhere, even though we're called Southern Nevada Conservancy. But as an organization, our mission statement is to create opportunities to discover, understand, and enjoy your public lands. So what is OHV? I'm sure you already know this, but OHV just stands for off-highway vehicles. It's also for like our designated roads and routes for OHV usage all throughout the Spring Mountains National Recreation Area. So this is kind of a question for you guys, but like, how active are you in this area? What are some of the things that you've noticed when you've been out there? Have you ever been through here before?
No, I mean, I've been to Wheeler Pass once a few years ago, but I didn't realize there was trails up here.
Yeah. What about you? Have you ever explored? Oh, at the Desert National. I loved, so when I started with the organization, I was a field ranger over at Desert, and I got to do backcountry stuff, and that was, I drove through Harris Spring Road today in our work truck, and I was like, oh, I miss this. Because now I'm usually just, I mean, I like hiking and things like that, but I definitely love backcountry stuff. So something you might hear me say, or just in general you'll hear with this program, is UMRs, which are unregistered motorized routes. So this is just kind of like the social routes that people create, especially because there's such a lack of signage in this area. People will just go wherever they see tracks, right? Yeah. Which isn't necessarily their fault. It's mainly our fault. We don't have signs. So part of this program is trying to get those signs up and also trying to restore some of those areas that have created social routes. So in terms of our program goals, we want to reduce impacts on plants and wildlife. A lot of our OHV areas are actually near endangered species habitats and endemic species. So if you don't know what endemic means, it just means that they live here and they don't exist anywhere else in the world. A lot of them are butterflies and insects and things like that, but we still do our best to try to protect them. We want to improve visitors' experience, provide helpful information. A lot of folks don't realize that we have OHV maps that we can provide, or that there are some apps that can help. Like we'll be talking about an app called Avenza, and we'll go over that in a little bit. We want to reduce impacts on the forest environment and community, which means encouraging visitors to stay away from those social or illegal routes, educates folks on leave no trace principles. So there's 7 of them, and they're pretty general stuff like, you know, camp on durable surfaces, leave what you find, or pack out what you bring in, that kind of stuff. And we want to we do want to report non-compliant visitors. Sometimes you'll say, hey, by the way, this isn't, you know, an established route, just so you know. And somebody might say, well, I don't really give a crap. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Just let us know, not necessarily like, what's your name kind of thing, but just let us know that that's happening so we can make sure the Forest Service is out there doing that stuff. So how that kind of relates into duties and responsibilities, it means roving popular OHV routes and completing an OHV host report after each OHV host day. So an OHV host day isn't necessarily something that I have to schedule. If you guys are already you're like, we're interested in going out to the Spring Mountains, you can let me know ahead of time and I can make sure that I'm available. Give me a check-in text like we're gonna head out to Wheeler Pass or something. So that way I just know that you guys are out there doing some volunteer work, even if it's just monitoring, like doing a regular run, and you happen to notice a sign is down, or you happen to notice like, this doesn't look like a route, but I see tracks. You can take a picture and send it to me. So also visitor contacts, this might not be as important for this because I know I don't necessarily want to get out of the car and try to talk to other people. But if you do happen to run into folks, for example, maybe a group that has way too many people on a vehicle, just be like, hey, just so you know, please don't do that. It is against the rules. And it's really just for safety, right? If you are interested in installing signs like a boundary sign or anything like that, we can go over that. But for right now, it's mainly focusing on surveying, figuring out how much we need to buy, and then start installing those signs. And then, of course, reporting any misuse or violations. So common violations you're going to see are just careless operations of OHV or operating or possessing a motor vehicle off of the designated routes. They don't have a spark arrestor installed, but that one is not so important for you guys. That's something the Forest Service is mainly going to be monitoring. We want to make sure people are just following state laws, using the developed recreation sites, using OHV in developed recreation sites. So that means somebody's taking an ATV inside of a picnic area. Let's say you happen to be in a picnic area and you're like, that's not allowed. And operations that just disturb or damage vegetative resources, which kind of goes into, going onto social routes or illegal routes, things like that. Other common issues you're going to see are just litter, damaged signs, down signs, people who are unknowledgeable about OHV. It's their first time going out there and they didn't really prepare, or they don't really know what they're doing. Sometimes it's nice to be that person, be like, hey, did you know that maybe do this, or this might be safer, or here's a map if you don't know where you're going.
First timers at one point.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes it's just nice to give a little bit of a helping hand. So I was just out on Harris Spring Roads this morning and I saw this sign. I thought it was a perfect example of a damaged sign. So this would be something that you could take a picture of and you can report it. And so the thing with Avenza that's really great is you can download these free maps of this area, and you don't have to have service or anything. You can put a pinpoint and take a picture of wherever you are. It tracks your coordinates and it puts that point on the map, and then you can share the map with me once you get home. Yeah. So these are called carcinites. These are the kind of road signs that you might see. So more often than not, this is what you're going to see. It's going to have a number on it. You can find that number on the map to kind of help you understand where you are in the area. You might see other signs like this where it says no motor vehicles, but it does allow foot and horse travel. Or you might just see something that says no entrance, this area is closed. Those ones, instead of a white stripe, it's usually yellow. So it's a little bit more noticeable. I wasn't able to get a picture of that this morning. And I didn't find any over on Cold Creek either. So just to go over real quick what this paper is, it says the OHV Host Field Report. So this is something that if you're in a group, one person can kind of be in charge of. For example, visitor contacts down below, it says trucks versus dirt bikes or UTVs, ATVs. You don't have to talk to people. It's more of how much traffic do you see? And then up here is mainly just general stuff. What area did you go into? You could just write Harris Spring or Cold Creek or Wheeler Pass. You don't have to say each individual numbered road that you went on. That's fine. If you're marking stuff on the map, I'll figure it out. Hosted by, you can either put your group name, or if you want to put individual's name, that's totally fine as well. And then dates. It says time you start at the visitor center. However, I'll go over this in a little bit. You don't have to stop up here before you go out there, especially if you're going to Cold Creek or Wheeler Pass. Nobody wants to drive all the way up here and then drive all the way back down and then go all the way around. Daily safety discussion. So this is something that we would go over usually through text message. So if you let me know ahead of time, hey, we're going out on Wheeler Pass, or we're going up to Upper Wheeler Wash area, is there anything we should know? And I could say, oh, the Forest Service noticed this. Can you just check on it? Or, we did have a lot of rain. You might get some washed out, roads or something like that. Just weather conditions and, like I said, visitor contacts. So on the back side, all of this is just kind of work accomplished. If you happen to see any wild horses, you'll definitely see them if you go like near Cold Creek, because the residents love to feed them. So they're definitely like hanging around. If you noticed any routes that don't have signs, but they definitely have tracks, you might be able to compare, like on the map, it definitely has a route there. So maybe it's not a UMR, maybe it's just a down sign or something like that. Another one is, did you go out and fix a sign? So this is kind of more for the future though. It's not something you'll be filling out right now, but if, for example, we do get to a point where we can say, hey, here's a sign, and we'll show you, of course, how to install them and everything. And if you are able to go out there, you could fill that out here. On the next page, it says dispersed camping. So you might see folks who have just tents in the back of their trucks or RVs or something like that. It's good to take note of who's out there, mainly just because technically for this area, we have a limit of 14 days to stay in like one location. Again, this is one thing, it's not like you're gonna be going up to somebody being like, you have been here for too long. It's more of like, let's say you went out and you notice that there's an RV or something, and then a month later you go again and that RV is still there. That's good for us to know. We can have Forest Service go out there and just see what's going on, make sure that they're okay. Any safety hazards, if you notice there's like beehives around, or there's glass in the middle of the road or something like that, something that's a little bit too difficult for you to kind of like pick up yourself, because glass can be tedious. And also, like, even if you have a trash bag to pick up litter, glass is just gonna rip right through that. So that's something that either me or the Forest Service can go out there and get done. Again, anytime you see anything like that, we just ask that you try to get coordinates. Also, if you're using Avenza, you can do it there as well. You can do that point, take a picture, and just send me the map afterwards. And then any regulations observed, you might see dogs off leash. That is technically a rule. Even in OHV areas, you do need to keep your dogs on leash. That's, again, a safety thing. If folks are having their dogs off leash and somebody is in a UTV and they're zooming around a corner, that could potentially hit your dog, and we don't want that. Work accomplished. This one is it's kind of similar to everything else. I know it might feel a little bit repetitive, but it's just like how they want us to divide everything out. So did you happen to check on a wilderness boundary sign? Even if it's okay, you could say, I checked on this boundary, or I checked on this sign, or, I picked up trash, or I moved branches and rocks from the road, things like that. And then if you notice that maintenance is needed, there's a huge pothole or something like that, that definitely needs to be maintained. Some of the roads are, it's a little bit harder, but especially like Harris Spring Road, that's a very well maintained road. So maybe after a rain, like there's a huge wash in it, the Forest Service will definitely go out and fix something like that. And then any notes, comments, ideas for the future. This is a new volunteer program, so I am happy to hear any feedback at all, positive, negative. I can take it. So anything at all, like, I am willing to take it into consideration. We want to make sure that all of the volunteers are having an enjoyable experience while they're volunteering, and we want to make sure that the things that we're trying to put in place are actually working. So I want to give you a little bit of background information about the area in general. So it is called the Spring Mountains National Recreation Area, although a lot of folks just call everything Mount Charleston. So we are kind of a forested oasis in the Mojave Desert of Southern Nevada. The mountains offer a haven for wildlife, a cool retreat for visitors to get away from the valley heat. It's a forest resource. It's a vital watershed fed by numerous springs. In fact, I saw, I think it's mainly snowmelt, but I did see a really nice spring on Harris Springs Road. So it was just like really beautiful to see. But that also means we have a lot of wildlife. We have deer, elk, wild turkey, mountain lions. I haven't seen a wild turkey yet though. Wild horses, donkeys / burros. We do have bighorn sheep up here. Birds, butterflies are all common.
Did you say mountain lion?
Yes. Yep.
Seen one around here?
I haven't seen one. Nobody in the Forest Service recently has seen one. However, we know they're still around because we see their poop, we see their prints, and we find their skulls. Yeah? Yeah. Definitely in this area, though, they like to keep to themselves. Any kind of noise, people in general, they try to stay away. But we know they're here. We know they're out there watching us.
Good. I like cats.
Well, we've
Not that
seen
big.
what?
Yeah.
We've seen the wild horses, we've seen boars, like bighorn sheep.
Fox. I saw fox.
Oh, yeah,
We've seen
foxes are up here.
What the fox say?
Snakes.
Every once in a while, that song like pops up into my head, like core memory, and then I'm like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking about
It
it.
was a song of the moment on the web. What a weird moment.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of stuff up here, and you do get snakes. You know, we are still technically in desert area. Higher in elevation, you're less likely to see them, but like I've seen snakes around the visitor center here and things like that. There is no sign saying do not cross, you know, like for wild animals, they're going to go wherever they can find food and water and things. So a couple more facts. It's about 45 minutes from downtown Las Vegas. We have about 75 OHV established routes. And for OHV though, it does include some mountain bikers. Sometimes you find like mountain cyclists, like not like motorbikes, but cyclists. They usually stick around this area though, like this, it's called Telephone Canyon. It's right across the road when you hit the roundabout. You'll hit a lot of bikers there, but not usually, hopefully, anywhere else. But we do have quite a few OHV routes. We have 316,000 acres of public land, and the Spring Mountains actually stretch all the way to the border of Death Valley National Park. About 79,500 acres of designated wilderness, which include La Madre, Rainbow Mountains, and the Mount Charleston wilderness areas. We get over 1 million visitors annually, and Charleston Peak sits at 11,916 feet. It is the highest peak in Southern Nevada, but you can't drive to it. You do have to hike to it.
How high up can you get with the trails? Not hiking, but driving.
Like driving?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what the highest like OHV route goes to elevation wise, but if you're trying to get to the peak, the highest you can drive up to is Cathedral Rock Trailhead, which is up this Kyle Canyon Road, and then you'll just hit the end. I can't remember the elevation though off the top of my head. I think it's probably like 8,000 or something. So you're increasing a lot in elevation when you're hiking to the peak. So one of our endemic species is called the Mount Charleston blue butterfly, or we just call McBeebe. It relies on plants like the Torrey's milkvetch during larval state and nectar plants like sulfur flower buckwheat during the butterfly stage. So the reason I bring up this butterfly is because this is the butterfly that's on our endangered species list, and it's endemic. So it lives here and it doesn't live anywhere else in the world. And it's actually only about the size of your thumbnail. It's a really small butterfly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes, very, very tiny. Last time they did a count, I think it was last year, they were able to count about 200, which is pretty low. It sounds like a lot, but it's pretty low when it comes to like them being able to lay their eggs and things like that. So the interesting thing about these butterflies is that they can only lay their eggs on one plant. That's it, which is the Torrey's milkvetch. And as caterpillars, they can only eat the Torrey's milkvetch. Once they become butterflies, they'll pretty much take nectar from any buckwheat plant and anywhere on the mountain. And they only live about 7,000 feet in elevation and higher. So because of that, and because of the Carpenter Fire, it wiped out a lot of its original habitat, and that's why we are trying to promote, habitat safety. If you're higher than 7,000 feet, you want to make sure you're not stepping off trail or you're not driving off of the designated routes, because you could be destroying vital plants that these butterflies survive off of. And so the exact population count is unknown currently because the last one was done last year. So an interesting thing as well is if winter lasts a really long time, the butterflies know to stay in their cocoons. They will not hatch early. It's very much dependent on the temperature. So if their body temperatures are still too cold, they'll wait. So it's hard to tell when exactly they're gonna hatch, and their life cycle is 2 weeks. So it's a very small window for researchers to be able to count them and find them. Most of their habitat is going to be in the Cold Creek area and for hiking in like the Bristlecone and Bonanza Trail areas. Yeah, so most adults live only up to 2 weeks. They usually take flight sometime between late June or the end of August. So there's a window, but you know, it can be a little hard. And they've been on the Endangered Species Act since 2013.
The other one that I know of is the Palmer's chipmunk, is only here in the Spring Mountains.
Yes, the Palmer's chipmunk is also, that's a very popular one because you can actually see that. He's everywhere. He runs across the roads in all kinds of places. He's cute too. I love the Palmer chipmunk because it's just, I think it's just a little bit smaller than regular chipmunks, and but they look so similar. And I love little chipmunks and squirrels and stuff. So a little bit about the ecology. A little fun fact, we have 7 distinct life zones going from Las Vegas Valley all the way up to Mount Charleston Peak. That is the same amount of life zones that you'll find from the United States southern border all the way to the northern border. So it starts with salt bushes and the creosote burst sage, all stuff that you saw driving up. Then it moves to the blackbush and Joshua trees. Around this area, you have the pinyon junipers as well as the mixed conifers. Of course, the words got cut off. Then you get a little higher and you have these amazing subalpine bristlecone trees. One of the most popular ones to go visit is called Rain Tree. A lot of people hike to it. But I just recently read a bristlecone book, and they chopped down a tree in the like 80s or something, and they counted the rings, and that tree was almost 6,000 years old. Oh, so these trees are very old, and they have been here for a very, very long time. Then when you get to the alpine zone, which is pretty much Charleston Peak, it's anything over 11,500 feet. You're gonna get very flat, rocky, small bushes because it's little oxygen. It's exposed to the sun and exposed to the wind, so there's not really a lot of room for life to be able to flourish.
Are those trees protected at all? Are they?
Yeah, so you're not allowed to cut down any bristlecone trees, especially if it's considered a designated wilderness area. And anytime you're on a road or like trail or anything like that, they have those signs to say you are not entering a designated wilderness and you cannot mess with the trees. Yeah, they're definitely protected. So a little bit of our history. Before European contact, we had and to the present, we have the Southern Paiutes, or they also call themselves the Nuwuvi. They settled around the areas. If you check out around the visitor center, we have a display. It's called the 7 Stones, and each stone represents a different tribe that has interacted or has some type of relationship with Mount Charleston. For the Nuwuvi, Mount Charleston is actually a big part of their creator story. Just to kind of summarize it, the creator brought a big flood, and the coyote brought up a Nuwuvi baby to the peak to help it survive, and that's how their people were able to live on. In 1855, Mormon settlers founded Las Vegas. Didn't become a town, though, until 1905. And in the 1880s, a man named Keel Sawmill built at the present location of the old Kyle Canyon Ranger Station. So those buildings are up the road. They're near the Fletcher View campground, and the Forest Service actually still uses those buildings as administrative facilities. And then the Charleston Forest Reserve is established and by the newly created Forest Service. Then in 1915, we have our first Charleston Lodge in operation, and then it burns down in 1961, and then they rebuild it, and then it burns down again. So they are in the process actually of rebuilding it. They put their like blueprints and stuff. They submitted it to the county, and the county has approved it. So they were just waiting for the snow to melt, and they should be starting construction pretty soon, if they haven't already.
Of that, it's gonna look amazing.
I'm excited. Hopefully, I believe the last fire was like an electrical fire, so I'm fingers crossed they kind of figure out their mistakes.
Right.
A little bit more history. There's a group called the CCC that was created in the 30s, and they formed the first facilities, roads, and trails in this area. But then the group ends because of World War II, and the Air Force used those facilities as a rest stop here. In 1951 and 1963 is the era of atomic tourism in Las Vegas. So if you don't already know about it, like even casinos and stuff would rent out the top of their buildings, and you could get a spot, have a nice picnic, and watch the explosions in the distance. But for the Spring Mountains, If you drive on Deer Creek Highway, the desert overlook, that was the most popular spot for people to watch the atmospheric nuclear tests. In 1955, there was a C-54 aircraft that carried 14 CIA and US Air Force agents that crashed on Mount Charleston, and sadly there were no survivors. This was during the Cold War and before people actually knew what Area 51 was. So because of how secretive it was, government wasn't willing to release the information. So sadly, a lot of loved ones and family members were left to believe that their family members died in disgrace. However, it wasn't until the 90s that they did finally release that information, and they were kind of given more closure that they knew that their family members died continuing to fight for their country. We have a Cold War memorial on display here at the Visitor Center. There's a propeller on display, and that is the actual propeller from the plane crash. If you hike to Mount Charleston, you can see the bits and pieces of the plane crash are still up there, because after 50 years, it's considered historic trash and you can't remove it. Yeah, 50 is the magic number. So in 1989 was when the Charleston Wilderness Area was designated by Congress. And then finally in 1993, we become the Spring Mountains National Recreation Area. So when it comes to, so back to OHV stuff, I gave you the general kind of history and things like that, but back to OHV stuff, when you're going out there, all I ask is that you give me at least a few days notice if you are planning to do a run. We also will reach out to you. Sometimes the Forest Service will say, okay, we're ready to put those signs in. Do you have a group? And I can reach out to you and say, are you available, next weekend or whatever day works for you? And we'll figure something out. And I'll make sure you get those signs. You guys know what you're doing. And probably the first time I'll go out with you, or the Forest Service will also go out with you to make sure that we know what we're doing. Have your Avenza map prepared. So there's 3 maps that you can download on Avenza that I have downloaded. Sadly, Harris Springs Road does not have a map on Avenza. You just have to use the general Spring Mountains map. But Cold Creek and Wheeler Wash both have free maps on Avenza that you can use. And you can continue to add pinpoints and then just share them with me as things continue. If you know that something has been fixed, it's really easy. Just delete that pinpoint off of your map. Or if you want to start fresh every single time after you share the map with me, that's fine as well. Because I'll have all of them saved and I will be kind of that person to keep track of everything. And then I just ask that you contact me via text or email when you have completely gone home, you're safe, you're done. And it's just mainly for us to make sure that everyone is safe. We know that we don't have to send out a search party for you guys, like you're all abandoned in Wheeler Wash or something like that. And if you're able to return the OHV report to the visitor center, that's great. If you're at Harris Spring Road, if not, you can send me a picture. That's totally fine. So areas that are definitely going to need frequent attention are Cold Creek. This is the image that is in the maps that I gave. You don't have to unfold it all out and stuff. But as you can see, it's got all the numbered routes and things like that. This is, it says Upper Wheeler Wash. So this is something that the Forest Service would give us. And really all this red are the illegal routes, right? So sometimes, more often than not, what happens is if there's no sign saying, this route ends here, people will just continue on. And this is something that I would be, let's say I would include it in an Avenza map and share it with you. So that way you know where you're going. Because I love Avenza. If you have the map, and you have let's say I gave you some of these points and I shared it with you, you can get directions. It'll pop up directions for you, even if you don't have service.
So what happens if you find people driving on these routes? What's the consequence?
So the consequence, let's say if a Forest Service person runs into somebody, they do get a ticket. I believe the fine is up to, I want to say $400. But it's dependent, right? It's who you run into, how bad you're kind of just doing donuts or something. You might get a little bit higher of a fine. Or if you're in a, let's say you're in an ATV that doesn't have the spark accelerator plug, then you're definitely going to get a ticket for that. It's those things. So for you guys, if you see somebody, that's more of just a report. You don't have to talk to them or anything like that. That's not we don't ever want to put you in a situation where somebody's going to be like, you can't tell me what to do. Right. And we do give you guys volunteer vests if you'd like them. You don't have to take them if you don't want to, but I can give you a handful of varying sizes. We also have a couple of hats too that you guys can take.
Nice.
I just wanted to kind of like make
There's
this
an awful
bigger.
lot of red up there.
Yeah, this one was 2021. This was from 2021. So hopefully it's not as bad. But then again, with all the flooding that happened last year and then winter,
Right.
things are always going to be, something's always going to happen, you know. And again, a lot of time it's not necessarily somebody's fault if there's not a sign or something like that. Then again, if there is, it is their fault.
Yeah. And I think that's our biggest concern in the club is like taking people out and then we're on something that we shouldn't be, but there is no signage and BLM, they can't tell you what
Yeah.
the deal is. I mean, you talk to 3 different people, you have 3 different answers. Yeah. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
the
I heard that at
problem.
the meeting. That's so frustrating.
Yeah. So it's like, how are we supposed to know if we're doing right or we don't
Yeah.
want to do the wrong thing? Especially to have our members out there with us, you know, so.
If you ever run out of maps, let me know. They actually just printed like 100 more maps. So if you want, even if you want more than what I just gave you, we're gonna walk up to the visitor center. I'm gonna show you our volunteer station where you can kind of pick things up if you want to when you're up here. Yeah, so if you want more, just let me know.
Okay.
And all of that, like the stickers and things like that, like they got funding to print all kinds of stuff. I'm a big sticker person. I love putting stickers on my car and stuff. So what to prepare? So I firmly believe that you're here because you know what you're doing. So whatever it is that makes you most comfortable, however it is that you prepare whenever you're doing your runs, I fully trust that you know what you're doing. However, I always have to say, prepare for unexpected weather and road conditions. If by chance you are stuck without any self-service, you'll want to have extra sweater and reasonable amount of food supplies in your vehicle with you. Water, you may encounter underprepared campers that need more water, which happens pretty often. It gets hot out here. Some people expect like, oh, it's the mountains, it's cooler than Las Vegas, but just because it's like 120 in Las Vegas, it's still gonna be 100 degrees up here. It's usually only a 20-degree difference, and it also depends on your elevation. So if you're in a lower elevation like Harris Springs Road, it's almost as hot as the valley.
Right.
So sunscreen, visor, sunglasses, gloves. You can also check some of these out if you want. If we are given an advance notice, like we do have some sunglasses. They say like Heineken on it. They're one of our sponsors. And we've got like gardening gloves and things like that. Especially if you're installing signs, we'll definitely give you some if somebody in your group just forgot some or doesn't have any or anything like that. And then I will always be sending you an Avenza map if you are doing something like installing a sign, or I'm asking you, hey, can you make sure to go check on this boundary sign while you guys are out there? So were you guys able to download the Avenza app? Okay, can you pull it up really quick?
Oh, good.
Yeah, my phone's busy right now.
I actually already had it and I didn't know it, but I have no idea how to like look at the map.
So this is what I have right here.
Yeah.
What you can do is that plus sign. If you, there's no plus sign. Let me see. Oh, it's at the top for you.
Oh,
Maybe I need to update mine. Probably should.
so mine says import, create folder, create class.
So you should be able to import map. Does it say import map?
Import map.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then,
install.
yep, get it from the store. And then you can look up like Cold Creek or something. If you don't have service right now, you might not be able to search it right now. But I can also share the maps with you guys. It might not load. I'm sorry. I know this is such a bad area. But yeah, so these are the 3 that I use. So it says Humboldt, Toyabe, Spring Mountains, NRA, then Cold Creek, and then Wheeler Well.
I have ABC,
Yeah, no problem.
NF, Spring Mountains,
That's-
NRA, something.
Yes. So that's the one that you would use for like Harris Spring Road.
Okay,
That's
so,
like kind of a bigger
so
map.
this means I have it, right? I have the map?
Yes. Yeah, it says your maps, and I believe that's one you. Yeah, that's perfect. You already got it.
Okay.
Oh, well, this one says South Lee Canyon. Can you click on it? I just want to double check. So it looks like this just has the Lee Canyon and Kyle Canyon specific. So you might need to look up, oh no, this little piece right here, that's what we want. That's what will have Harris Spring Road. It should be about right here. Another great thing is if you pull up the map while you're driving out there, it'll tell you where you are. Yeah. So that's why I like Aventa, is because you don't have to have service to do the pinpoints and things like that. So if you did click on a map, actually, I'm going to show you real quick. Sorry. I'm going to come back up. Yeah. So when you do have a map pulled up, so like I was at Harris Spring Road today, right here, you can see the little pin drop. Wherever that black dot is where the drop is going to hit. And then you can see.
If that's where I'm at, and I hit that.
Yep. And then it says place mark. You can label it. You can say down sign or illegal route or something like that. And then it gives you opportunity to include a photo. And then you can literally just press the little check mark and you're good to go. And then let's see. When you're back here, those 3 dots, at least for me, they're 3 dots, you can press share and you can send it via email. So equipment
This actually shows you GPS, like where we're at on this map.
Yeah, so if you look down here, there's coordinates. So right now you're not in this area. If you zoom out, it might show you where you are in this general. Right there you go. Yeah, so it says that's where you are in the Kyle Canyon area.
Wow.
It's super cool that it works that way. It's on a map.
Yeah.
It looks like a PDF,
Yeah.
right? That's what I'm like, oh. Because I use Gaia.
Yeah, Gaia is a good one too. I just personally haven't figured out everything for Gaia yet.
Yeah.
I just, I'm slowly learning. And then also there's this thing called CalTopo where you can like make your own maps. Hopefully within the next couple months, I'll have a better map for Harris Spring, because that general one that has the Spring Mountains, it's just not very good for just Harris Springs. So I'm gonna try to create one that I can share with everybody. As soon as I do, I'll make sure to let you guys know. Oh yeah, so for equipment provided, we do have radios. So there's 2 types of radios. There's like the fun little walkie-talkie radios. If you guys want to check those out, that's totally fine, just so you can communicate within your group while you're out on a run or something like that. If you guys already have your own walkie-talkies, that's fine.
Yeah, we use GMRX.
Oh, awesome. So we do have big chunky radios. You are welcome to check those out. However, I do have to be present for you to check those out. So if you're going somewhere like Wheeler Pass or Cold Creek, you probably may not want to do that, like come all the way up here to have to check out a radio. But when we go up to the visitor center, I'll show you what they look like and how they work. And anytime you do check out a radio, I go over all of that information again, because they're big and chunky. It can feel a little complicated. They're literally the Forest Service leftovers. They got new radios and they gave us the old ones. So we've got volunteer vests, first aid kits. If you have your own first aid kit and you do use it while you're volunteering, just let us know. We'll refill your first aid kits for you. You could take trash bags or disposable gloves, litter grabbers. We do sometimes provide first aid training, so I make an announcement to volunteers whenever we do have that available. We do ask that you have, I think, like at least like 20 hours of volunteering already in your pocket before you can join a first aid training. We have brochures, maps, handouts that you can take with you. And then when we get to that point, the calcinites and installation tools.
What's a calcinite?
It's those numbered signs, like the skinny, yeah, they call them calcinites. So we also have volunteer timesheets. So the only downside of this is like I do need individuals to fill these out. They are double-sided, so if you were to fill something out, take a picture and then send it to me and then fill out the back and then turn it in. If you want to make copies at home, that's totally fine. I also have an Excel spreadsheet that if you would prefer to just do it through that and email it to me, I can send that to you as well. Okay, I'll make sure to do that after this. But pretty much how it works is, oh, this is so blurry. You put your name, the month and the year. So underneath the word hours is what program you participated in. So you'd be OHV host, how many hours you were out there volunteering. You'll put your total for the month and then you'll just sign off and send it to me. So tracking volunteer hours is pretty important. This is so we can report it to the Forest Service and our partners. And the more hours that we have, the more likely they're willing to give us more funding. So that way we can get more things.
So what counts as like whenever we're out on the trail, the time we start, the we end?
Yeah, so if you guys are going out in a group, you could even say as soon as you guys meet up as a group and you're heading out together, that's when you start volunteering. And because like I feel like once you have gathered, you're working together as a team and you're already talking about all these things, and I count that as volunteer hours. Also training counts as volunteer hours, so you can mark today. I believe we started at about 11:30, so we'll probably finish about 12:45, maybe 1 o'clock. And so that'll be about an hour and a half. And let me see. And then for ending, it would be like whenever you guys just disperse. And yeah. So important contacts, if you're ever in an emergency, you're always gonna call 911. I do include the dispatch numbers. They're also included in that handbook that I emailed you in that PDF if you want to have it. So if it's maybe like a non-emergency, but somebody definitely needs some help or something, you can contact those dispatch numbers. NDOT is for road conditions. It wouldn't really be for OHV roads. It's mainly for these like maintained paved roads here. We have the visitor center front desk. If you do have cell service and you want to get hold of a Forest Service employee, they answer the phones for the visitor center. And then of course, my cell phone number, you can contact me, text or call, whichever you're most comfortable with. And again, this is mainly so you can check in and check out with me. So I know that was a lot of information. Do you guys have any questions? Feeling pretty good?
Well, I guess if we're gonna do a post trail, like say we're gonna go do Wheeler Pass, does it matter how many people we bring out?
Nope. Doesn't matter how many people you bring out. What matters is, I think, whether or not they would like to fill out a timesheet. So if you want, what you could do is however many people are in your group multiplied by how many hours you volunteered, you could just write that down as well. So OHV hosts a group of, let's say 10 people or something,
Right.
and you volunteered for 3 hours, then that would be a total of 30 hours for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably better.
Yeah. They're not a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be like, out here.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that as like a group leader, like, just fill out one timesheet that says, we had a group of 10 this time around and we were out there for 3 hours, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Especially if you have the Excel spreadsheet, it's going to be easier that way.
Yeah.
Still prefer to list all the members that were in the group just so they get some kind of timesheet credit?
Sure, if you'd like to, that would be great, because at the end of the year, or around October, we do a volunteer appreciation, and we do give out awards for people who do a large amount of volunteer hours.
Nice.
And we provide like donuts and coffee and bagels and stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's cool. Okay. Will you send this to me? Oh, you said Excel.
Yeah, in an Excel sheet. I'll send it to you.
Okay, perfect.
Do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess when we start to do signs, you'll have us come back in to show us how to do that. Right?
Yeah. Probably won't come back here. We'll probably go out. We'll probably set like a meetup point out in the field and be able to show it out there.
Okay.
It's like a big hammer, almost two-handed hammer that you just like slam the signs down.
Oh, okay. Oh, or address. Let's see, the other question was what? The trails, we call them Jeep trails. Is there any rating, like the difficulties?
I think there is. Let me see. If I remember correctly, I know there's some kind of description on here. Just have to remember. No, it doesn't seem like they have difficulties on here.
Yeah, I'll have to research it somewhere else, just to make sure. Like this Harris one that we're gonna do, what do you think is-
Oh, it's super easy.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah,
In a regular.
but it's really
Car,
fun
if you
on
really
dirt
wanted
roads
to.
'cause it does get puddles.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. So I think we have this all filled out now.
What's at the very end of Harris Creek? Then they're like a game or something that year.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So it looks like a hiking trail.
Yeah, so technically you can access a hiking trail from Harris Springs Road. It goes all the way to Griffith Peak, and you can even continue past that to Charleston Peak. So when everything was closed, like South Loop was closed, 'cause South Loop is another way to get to the peak. A lot of people had to park all the way at Harris Springs, and that's like the hiking trail times 2. It's much more difficult. My goal, I actually do want to do that longer trail as like a backpacking trip. Definitely not. I'm not gonna do that in like a 1 day or anything like that. It's a lot. It's 21 miles.
Yeah.
If you go from North Loop to the peak and back.
And you're gaining so much altitude.
Yeah, you want to make sure you're not getting like elevation sickness or anything like that. Yeah.
Most hikers do like 10 miles a day.
Yeah.
That's a full day. You gotta leave, but you know.
That's
leave
not
it
me.
for the day. No, that's like,
Yeah.
I do little hikes here and
Did
there.
Crystal Cone got halfway, I was like, I'm done.
Yes, me too. Well, plus like I bring my son with me, so I have like a hiking pack, and he sits. I remember I did Wild Horse Canyon, so it connects. It's like it's not a maintained trail, so it's not on like most maps, but it connects to North Loop, and then you can just walk down the road. And I made my partner. He's a bigger guy. He does like strongman competitions and stuff. And I was like, "You're gonna carry him for the first part." Finally, at some point, he was like, "I can't do this. Like, we have to switch." I was like, "Okay, we switch." And then literally, like, as soon as we switched, it was like downhill from there. He was so mad at me. He's like, "I should have made you switch earlier." I was like, "Oh well, you know, I'm fine. This is great, you know." Next time we go, he's gonna know. He's gonna be like, "You do it the first half of it." Okay. Any other questions?
Don't think so.
Okay, great. So we're gonna walk up to the visitor center really quick. I want to show you where you can pick up all of your volunteer gear, and then from there we're gonna head out to Harris Springs.
Alrighty, folks, and there you have it. We had a great presentation by our presenter that went ahead and I posted her name on the screen earlier when she was speaking, and I was just so engulfed with everything that she was talking about that I didn't really remember her name. What's her name? Right on, man. What's his name? Ashton. There you go. That's the name. No, but we definitely got a lot out of this. We're going to go ahead and share this information more and more. And of course, as group members of Desert Wranglers, we're going to go ahead and continue to follow with the whole cleanup and do our part as off-roaders that we are. You know, it's just only fair. We use the trails. Let's help clean them up. But thanks for watching. I hope you found this educational and entertaining. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Click that little bell. And of course, join us on all our social platforms. Don't forget to visit us at www.defiantjeep.com, where you can find all your Jeep performance accessories, camping gear, and other merch. We'd love to see you on the trail.